Welcome to City Council. I'd like to welcome everyone that is here with us this evening, and all those who are watching us at home on TV or whatever device you're watching us at home on. Thank you for taking an interest in your government. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Patricia Freeman, pastor of St. Philip's AME Church, for the invocation. Ask that everyone remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Freeman.
Good evening, everyone. Let us take a moment to join our hearts and our minds to our Creator, the one of humanity to all. We thank you for this opportunity to call upon your people for a meeting such as this. We thank you for each and every one who is here this afternoon. You have blessed us with such amazing, supportive people who seek the welfare of your people and of our community, of our schools, our churches, our business, our ministry. For your loving Creator, we thank you for being in the midst of us. And we give thanks to all our supportive leaders for their wisdom, for their knowledge, and for the compassion of their community. Now we ask that you will pour out your blessings upon them, give them wisdom, knowledge to bless your people even the more as you bless this meeting as they come on one accord for your goodness and for your mercy that you've shown into this community. Now, as we give attentive to all the business that comes at hand, let us not forget to be likewise and like-mindedness to each and every one that is here who've taken the time to share their love and thoughts toward this community. And we thank you for our leaders and for their wisdoms. In the almighty name in our Creator, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's a good prayer. Before we begin the meeting this evening, I would like to recognize a very special guest that we have with us, Roz Mills, who just turned 103. There she goes. We all need some of your advice, Roz. Okay. So we have several presentations this evening. The first presentation is a proclamation recognizing June 2023 as Pride Month, and I'd like to recognize Shelley O'Rourke and Ed Adams of the LGBTQ Center of the Cape Fear Coast, if they'll meet me up front. City of Wilmington, North Carolina proclamation reads, whereas our nation was founded on the principles of equal rights for all people, but the fulfillment of this promise has been long in coming for many Americans. As such, some of the most inspiring moments in our history have arisen from those seeking the promise of justice and equality, creating movements transforming communities from the margins to the mainstream. Whereas the Stonewall riots that occurred in New York City on June of 1969 were one of those inspiring moments that gave birth to the observation of Pride Month, and whereas June is celebrated as LGBTQ+ Pride Month to provide visibility to the LGBTQ community, offer hope to those still in fear of being their authentic selves, and sending a resounding call to all to use our voices to eliminate injustices everywhere. And whereas despite progress, the LGBTQ community remains a marginalized group that continues to experience a rise of violent attacks, especially in the transgender community, and continues to experience disproportionate high rates of homelessness, poverty, and bullying, but remains a determined and resilient community. And whereas the LGBTQ community in Wilmington is an integral part of our resilient and vibrant city and has contributed to Wilmington's economic, artistic, political, and social justice development, and whereas the city of Wilmington has a diverse LGBTQ+ community and recognizes that diversity enriches our city and region, and whereas City Council approved a resolution in August of 2020 inaugurating the Rise Together initiative to promote better understanding and inclusion throughout the city and especially for marginalized communities. And whereas the County City Community Relations Advisory Committee supports the city's work to strengthen and enrich civic relationships and participation throughout Wilmington's diverse community, and the city improved its Human Rights Campaign Municipal Equality Index score by 30 points in 2022. And whereas the city has an LGBTQ+ liaison and Office of Equity and Inclusion within the Office of the City Manager, uses inclusive employment language, provides health benefits inclusive of the transgender community, approved an ordinance for non-discrimination in public accommodation, and includes non-discrimination language in city contracts. And whereas all persons should be able to live without fear of prejudice, discrimination, violence, and hatred based race, religion, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor of Wilmington, North Carolina, does hereby proclaim June 2023 as Pride Month in the city of Wilmington and encourages the community to respect and honor the city's diversity through celebrating and building a culture of inclusion and acceptance. This, the 20th day of June 2023. Congratulations. We're going to take a picture right there. Thank you, everyone.
I'm so happy to be here.
Our next proclamation designated July 2023 as Parks and Recreation Month, and I'd like to ask Amy Beatty to join me up at the front. City of Wilmington, North Carolina proclamation reads, whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Wilmington, North Carolina, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas parks play a vital role in the physical, social, and economic well-being of citizens, and whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction, and whereas our parks and green space area ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. Now, therefore, the Wilmington City Council proclaims July as Parks and Recreation Month, and I just want to say congratulations to Amy and her staff and all of the folks in the city of Wilmington that work diligently to keep our parks in good shape, and I know that they're heavily used because I see them all the time when I'm walking around them, so congratulations. Next item of business is our annual report of the Hannah Block Historic USO Community Arts Center. At this time, I'd like to recognize Ms. Susan Habas, who's the Executive Director of Thaling Association Community Theater. Susan, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Safa, Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, and council members. I'm Susan Habas, Executive Director of Thaling Association Community Theater, and we are honored to have managed the Hannah Block Historic USO Community Arts Center for the City of Wilmington since 1994. Before the pandemic, the Community Arts Center was busier than ever, and I'm happy to report that building usage and activities are back to normal. A quick snapshot of building usage in the last 5 years. In 2019, more than 50,000 people rented space in the building or participated in events. At the height of the pandemic, usage fell to a little under 18,000, and today we are back to pre-pandemic levels. The Hannah Block Historic USO Community Arts Center only closed for 1 month in April 2020 and was open for activities following North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services guidelines. Here is a recap of some exciting things happening in the building. Studio space is in high demand thanks to the free meeting and rehearsal space policy for nonprofit organizations and inexpensive classroom rentals. The list of classroom users includes Orange Street Pottery, karate, CPR training, painting, Tact Academy, Theater for All, Aloha Ukulele, NORAC Dance Company, Coastal Carolina Clay Guild, and Tippy Toes Dance, to name just a few. The historic USO building is a wonderful multi-use facility and affordable community space for all types of public and private events, theater productions, dances, weddings, workshops, film locations, festivals, and church space. The building is no longer the best-kept secret in town, thanks to successful marketing from monthly digital newsletters, social media platforms, social indoor media digital ads in public buildings throughout the region, print ads in Intracoastal Living magazine, Wilmington Parent and the Wilmington Journal, Craigslist, and event press releases. Year-round arts education programs are provided through Thalian Youth Theater, including free daytime school performances and sensory-friendly performances. Laney High School student ceramic show during the Orange Street Arts Fest, Tact Academy after-school classes, free teachers' resources to support classroom learning and arts integration, and Big Buddy families are invited to all youth theater dress rehearsals. The new Arts Initiative makes theater more accessible for all families with a rookie show only open to children never cast in a Thalian Youth Theater show, and free tickets for all public performances on a first-come basis. Early reservations are open for youth nonprofit organizations. We offer Loterio con Yo Casa, a free bilingual class based on the famous Mexican bingo game, Loteria. The classes are for children ages 5 through 10, but families are welcome to attend together. Instructor Yolanda House changes the workshop theme every month. Every summer, we host Creative Arts Camp for children ages 4 and up, 8 weeks of affordable creativity and fun, visual and performing arts classes with weekly showcases. During the summer of 2020 and every summer since, camp has been offered following North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services guidelines. Scholarships are offered to guardian ad litem and other deserving children with employment opportunities for voyage and volunteer programs for high school students. Creative Arts Camp is the premier visual and performing arts camp in the region, covering all aspects of creative arts, performing, visual, pottery, filmmaking, tech, theater, and more. The historic USO building is the heart of Wilmington's World War II preservation efforts and an important part of the city designation in 2020 as America's first World War II heritage city. We are proud to work with Captain Wilbur Jones and the Wilmington World War II Homefront Heritage Coalition to preserve history and curate the building's lobby museum. Since the pandemic, several new exhibits have been added: a tribute plaque for the 9th and Nixon USO building, an aviation exhibit for Lieutenant Clarence Dickinson, a Wilmington native featured in the 2019 movie Midway, a new portrait of Hannah Block, Mrs. World War II Wilmington, and a vintage 1940s phone booth. Of course, the Community Arts Center is the heart of visual and performing art in Wilmington. Today, the building is home to Orange Street Pottery, the Wilmington Art Association official North Carolina Azalea Festival Art Show, the North Carolina Azalea Festival Youth Art Exhibition, Orange Street Arts Fest, the annual Clay Guild Holiday Show and Sale, the Community Gallery free to area artists, the High School Student Ceramic Show, and Art Ball. Gotta sing. Have you ever wanted to be in a choir? The Community Arts Center Choir Voices wants you. The CAC Choir began in February 2020 and is open to all voices, all ages, and all skill levels. The choir is led by Sylvia Johnson and performs great music in all genres: jazz, contemporary, gospel, and classics. The Hannah Block Historic USO Community Arts Center is a very unique building, cherished as a cultural treasure and much in demand as a multi-use venue. The next 4 slides will highlight some of the events and organizations that make this building a true community arts center. History is front and center with USO-style dances, special history presentations, theatrical productions, and the annual July 4th open house. Rosie the Riveter and Omitted History were great recent events. Karen Tunis and the OOPS Foundation have hosted great events at the Community Arts Center, including Port City Comedy Jams, Wilmington Apollo, gospel concerts, and fundraisers. More great events include the North Carolina Black Film Festival, Wilmington East Rotary's Wine Dinner for Moldova, and the I Can Dance Camp for special needs children. Theater for All is a very special nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering people with disability through the performing arts. Since 2020, Theater for All has presented 4 showcases at the Community Arts Center. The well-being and safety of building users is a top priority, and we have multiple safety measures in place, including an easily accessible defibrillator. All staff are CPR certified, and we continue to follow CDC guidelines and best practices. CAC staff and camp counselors are certified by Partners in Prevention to recognize signs of abuse. All CAC, Thalian Association, and camp counselors must follow our child protection policy and code of conduct. Thalian Association established the Preservation Fund to provide ongoing financial support for the building through donations, $1 preservation ticket fee, and periodic fundraisers. The Preservation Fund was used to purchase the defibrillator, update lobby museum exhibits, and install LED theatrical lighting valued at $23,000. Thalian Association donated labor for the lighting installation, a new lobby rug, handheld microphones, and furnishings for the dine-in cell studio. Many area nonprofit organizations use the building and benefit from free and paid programming provided at the Community Arts Center. To name a few: Orange Street Pottery, Historic Wilmington Foundation, New Hanover County Schools, Children's Museum of Wilmington, Carousel Center, Partners in Prevention, World War II Wilmington Homefront Heritage Coalition, Guardian Ad Litem, Southeast North Carolina Veterans Day Parade Committee, North Carolina Black Film Festival, North Carolina Azalea Festival, Honor Flight, and CFCC, the Wilson Center. The Community Arts Center Advisory Board was dissolved in November of 2021 by the City Council, creating a seat on the Thalian Association Board of Directors for a member of council. Reverend Dr. Clifford Barnett Sr. joined the TACT Board of Directors in January of 2022. Thalian Association is truly honored to help the City of Wilmington provide cost-effective programming for citizens, maintenance and upgrades to a treasured cultural asset, and a safe place for family education and recreation. Before I say goodbye, I would like to introduce our dedicated and innovative Creative Arts Camp Director and Community Arts Center Director, Ms. Stacy Smith.
Thank you for having us. It's an honor to work in a building that I got to grow up in and spend most of my childhood, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan.
We
Thank you very
appreciate
much. Very good for you. Next presentation is the Commission for Women's Annual Report and presentation of the Inspiration Award. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Ms. Sheila Evans, who is the chairperson of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Saffo, Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, council members. I'm pleased to report that one of our issues that was plaguing us for maybe the last 18 months is finally solved. We have a full roster. It had gone up and down over the last 18 months or so, and I'm pleased to share that we have a roster of dedicated women ready to work for our area. Also, I just want to update you on the speakers that we have. Our goal is to have guest speakers to share information for us so that when we're out in the community representing the Commission for Women, we might hear something or have some information sharing that could take place. We've had someone from the North Carolina Council for Women. When Joe Conway, the Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer for the city, was hired, he was our guest, and we continue to have a great relationship with Joe and Amy Schlegg. We had North Carolina House Representative Charlie Miller. We had Girl Scout Mia Blackwelder. She has a project, a balloon release project, and we continue to work with her on that, trying to come up with a education project and maybe even some legislation from the county. We had candidates from both the North Carolina State House and the North Carolina Senate prior to the elections. We had the president of the Feminist Student Alliance from UNCW, representatives from Unseen Project Lightning Strike, representatives from Cape Fear Latinos, a member of the Waccamaw Siouan tribe, a representative from the North Carolina Early Childhood Foundation, Planned Parenthood Domestic Violence Center. After election, we had New Hanover County Commissioner Leanne Pierce, and last month we had James Jarvis. He's the Executive Director of the American Red Cross. One of the primary responsibilities in the resolution from both the city and the county is for the commission to relay to you what is important to women in our community. We started a pulse survey in collaboration with the Cape Fear Collective. Megan Dennison, who's the executive director, was on the commission for a good while. She and her colleagues helped us create an original 5-question pulse survey. It's taken us a while, but we did get 271 responses, 245 in English and 26 in Spanish. I do want to mention we have closed the survey at this point, but we will reopen it and work with the Cape Fear Collective one more year on the survey. I do want to share that in both surveys, the English and the Spanish, the same first and second concern, they were the same. The first being health care. We define that in the survey as health access, affordability, mammograms, maternal health, prenatal, and elder care. Personal safety in the survey was defined as domestic violence support or protection, sexual assault support and or protection, policing, support groups, walkability, and sex or labor trafficking. I do want to mention that one of the things about the guest speakers, knowing that mammograms and healthcare was one of the issues, our guest speaker for July is Tiffany Fountain from the American Cancer Society. They have a new initiative that specifically targets the diverse population, so we're super proud about that. We also have a logo, it's super cool, it has a presence on all of the city and county's diversity office pages, social media, et cetera. For Women's International Month this March, we hosted a New Hanover County Connect event. It's a network event for professionals aimed at the diverse communities. We also participated in New Hanover County's Change Makers. We worked on a Medicaid expansion postcard campaign, and I was told that it was shown on television that one of the representatives was holding up the postcards. So as lame as we think the written word can be, I thought that was exciting. We support many events that the YWCA puts on or sponsors. We also had a table at Women's Inequality Day. We personally, several members, sponsored a table at the Equity Ball. Several of us will participate in the Williston Legacy graduation, both the day before and the day of the event. Really, the exciting event for us this year is our Women's Resource Fair. It's going to have a catchy name. I'm not sure what it is. Honestly, we meet next week, so I haven't had an update. But we're excited about that. It's been in the works for over 2 years. November 4th is that special day. And the highlight and the fun part of our presentation is we have the Inspiration Award. We spent a lot of time with the help with Judge Robinson creating the criteria and the selection. And I'm going to call Jane Burnback up forward to make the presentation. And should I call Dr. Michelle Scanton-Messier?
Thank you. We had several applications this year, nominations for a woman who inspires, and Dr. Michelle Scanton-Messier was hands down the most inspiring woman who was nominated this year. So on behalf of the Commission for Women, I'm very proud to present you in recognition of your empowerment and inspiration. There is always a light, if only we are brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. For you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that completes our report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, everybody. Next presentation is the presentation of Employee Recognition Awards, and I will be making that presentation at the front. I'd like to recognize our quarterly award winners for the city's Employee Recognition Program. We are very fortunate to have dedicated and talented individuals striving to ensure that our residents receive the highest quality services possible from their local government. The individuals being recognized tonight have demonstrated a commitment to the organizational core values of collaboration, accountability, creativity, and inclusion. The individuals being recognized tonight are Devontae Best from our Community Services Department and Captain Kelvin Hargrove from our Police Department. Early this year, a resident collapsed at Maids Park Gym. Both Kelvin and Devontae acted quickly by performing life-saving measures on this individual. Their swift intervention, collaboration, and CPR training helped ensure the recovery of the individual until the EMS units arrived. Though shaken, both individuals provided the best possible care, and I'm happy to report that the heart attack victim survived and is doing well, thanks to the swift intervention of these two great public servants. So I want to say at this time, congratulations on your life-saving skills and what y'all were able to do out there at Maids Park, saving those people's lives. Thank you so much. Thank you, Devontae. Next presentation is a Walk on Wilmington presentation, and this time I'd like to recognize Mr. Matt Hayes and Ms. Meg Bryson, who are with Alta Planning and Design. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for having us tonight. Again, my name is Matt Hayes with Alta Planning. I'm a active transportation planner, multimodal transportation planner. We're based in Durham, and just been excited to work with the city on this project. So I'll just spend a few minutes running through the background and context, why we're doing the plan, how we got to the draft plan, some of our key recommendations, and then next steps. So a little bit on the background, you know, the city has a pedestrian plan in place in 2009 that was aging, and the city and the MPO decided it was time to update that plan, so went after a planning grant from NCDOT, the Integrated Mobility Division. So congrats to the city to going after that money and being able to fund this study through an NCDOT program. And really the idea is to assess what have we accomplished, what do we still need to accomplish, where are the needs still out there in the environment for infrastructure policies and programs. So we established a steering committee. I think we have a few committee members here today. And the steering committee really guided us through the process of city staff, MPO staff, and other stakeholders. And we established a vision where the city will be a pedestrian-friendly environment where walking is a safe and comfortable mobility choice for residents and visitors of all ages and abilities. So this is really our guiding force for us throughout the planning process. It really helped to guide us in our process. So, why do we need this plan? I think that it's, something that the city and the MPO are really focused on is we have a number of people in the community that are dependent on walking for transportation, right? Dependent on walking to a bus stop, depending on walking to work, walking to school. And Wilmington's pedestrian crash rate is the highest among large cities in North Carolina. So we'd like to fix that, right? We don't want to have that reputation. So we know we have safety issues in the community. And this pedestrian plan, the idea is to identify where some of those key crash areas are and dangerous areas are. So the plan really speaks to that. So, we know there are a lot of benefits in investing in walking, to your point, Mayor, with the parks earlier. Same idea with trails and walking facilities, giving people that quality of life, healthy living. Certainly from an economic development standpoint, people choose to live where they have those amenities. And certainly from a health standpoint, giving people access for safe exercise. So these are a number of the things we focused on, with safety really being at the center. How do we reduce crashes? How do we reduce serious injuries? So as far as the plan development, this is our general timeline that we worked with. We started in the spring of 2022, really gathering that existing conditions information, meeting with the committee, meeting with the public, going out to the public to hear from them about their needs in the community, developing that draft report and getting us to the final draft plan where we are now, where we're doing the presentation today and you all are considering for adoption at your next session. So very thorough analysis, and really we established these goals, and these three goals really stood out the most because of what we heard from the public, what we heard from our stakeholders. Again, safety, the importance of that in the community, and how do we have safe interactions between motorists, people walking, people biking. Equity as well. Some people are thinking to choose to walk. Some people are dependent on walking, right? So there's the recreation side, but there's also the transportation side. So how do we make sure we meet the need in our underserved communities for communities that are dependent on safe infrastructure from getting from place to place? And then part of that is connectivity. We know we've got sidewalks out there. We have gaps in those sidewalks. We have some crossing facilities that are needed. So how do we fill those gaps so you can make that complete trip by walking? So those were our key goals. So, a big part of our existing conditions analysis was looking at the state of facilities today. Where are your sidewalks? Where are the gaps in your sidewalk system? Where are some crossing issues, crossing main roadways? We really leaned into our steering committee and the public input that I'll talk about here in a minute, but also did that detailed analysis. And I mentioned the equity side, the equity analysis where we can pull demographic data and actually look at access to a vehicle ownership by household, median family income, really try to dial in those parts of the city where that need for walking facilities may be greatest. But we also really dove into the safety, developed a high injury network is what we call it, where you really look at a small percentage of your roadways where the majority of your crashes are happening, and that's where we really focused our recommendations. The engagement was great. I really give kudos to Mike and Abby and their team, always very focused and out there doing engagement. We were out there tabling where we want to intercept people, can expect people to come to us. So we went to transit stops, to community centers, trying to get to those community organizations that we don't often hear from. So we set up tables like you see here in the picture. We were out at, the MPO was out at summer farmers markets as well. So we really tried to get out to the public as much as we could. Had over 1,000 completed surveys, and we really took that information and really helped to build out the recommendations in our plan. Some of the things that we heard most commonly from the public, certainly around safety, vehicle speeds, driver behavior, lack of sidewalks in places. And you'll see those most important factors for selecting projects. That's what we really heard from the public, is how do we address safety, how do we make connections to where people work, live, and play, and also how do we connect to lower income areas. So that really all fed into our plan recommendations that you all have had a chance to look at. And again, those four elements really stood out. We really focused on safety and equity the most. Where are those crashes happening? Where do we start investing some dollars in infrastructure in those areas of safety concern? Like I mentioned, the equity side of things as well, where there's transportation disadvantaged populations. But again, those connections to where people are working, playing, and living, so parks, recreation, homes, and jobs. So we took that, and what we did is we developed focus areas, as you'll see in the plan, a number of focus areas that were really dove into a lot more detail. Where are those gaps in the sidewalk network? Where do we stand to make some improvements in roadway crossings, whether that be a pedestrian signal, a marked crosswalk, maybe where a curb ramp might be missing. Where can we look for new facilities that are needed? Where are our old sidewalk facilities needed for maintenance? So we looked at all those types of things within each focus area. And so you can see those on this map where we really focused in and dialed in. And within the plan, you'll see a lot of detailed recommendations for specific sections of roadway, specific roadway crossings, and ideas that can feed right into your capital improvement program in the future, but also for future grant opportunities as well through the MPO and also NCDOT. We had a number of additional priority projects outside of these focus areas that we heard a lot from the public and the committee, so we have projects scattered all across the city where we felt the investment was really needed to make a difference. And of course, we focus a lot on infrastructure, but it's important also to be thinking also about the programs and policies. So building on previous efforts that you have in place with your code and policy and looking at opportunities to address that with development. Also taking the next steps, and I saw later on the agenda that you're considering a resolution to support going after a safety action plan, federal funds for Safe Streets for All, and I think that's a nice next step. Continue to build on this pedestrian plan and really go into that Vision Zero safety effort with more steam behind you. So those are some of the recommendations you'll see in the plan. And finally, for next steps, I think it's important for us that we not only define what was needed for the plan, but also what are those specific action steps. So you'll see a number of those in action steps table, try to make this very action oriented. What are some of those steps for city staff to take, for community stakeholders and partners in the process? What are some funding strategies to help supplement what the city can do and try to add to what the city can do in terms of improving those facilities? But also, how are we doing from a performance measure standpoint? So making sure that this plan is living, it doesn't just go sit on a shelf, but we're constantly referring back to it and seeing how we're doing and making progress. So hopefully this sets you up for, moving forward with addressing those pedestrian safety issues. And with that, any questions, happy to answer any questions that y'all might have tonight.
Man, I have one question. In respect to talking with the Disability Committee, the New Hanover County Commission on Disability, have you had any discussion with that group?
That is a very good question. I don't want to put Abby or Meg on the spot. Do y'all know the answer to that offhand? Yeah, come on up. I actually don't know the answer to that, so we'll see if our crew does.
Hi, I'm Meg Bison with Alta Planning. We didn't meet with that group specifically, but we did talk to them and their advocates at the public meetings in January and February of this year.
And they had some recommendations?
Yeah, they did.
Okay. And in this plan that you are bringing to us, will address those concerns that the committee or members of that committee shared with
Yeah, we
your team?
revised the draft plan based on the recommendations from the community and the steering committee, and we incorporated some of their specific concerns.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, Ms. Rambar.
Excuse me, I just had one for you, sir.
Sure.
In your presentation, we're talking about gaps in sidewalks.
Yep.
Do you have an inventory of that?
We do, yeah. I think that was part of our existing conditions analysis. I think the city maintains a sidewalk layer, so we worked with the city to make sure that was as updated as possible. Certainly, almost weekly, there might be a new sidewalk added with a new development. But we looked at that, and then we were able to identify where those gaps are. So that's something that is provided as sort of a GIS mapping deliverable for city staff to use. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barnett?
Yeah, I was surprised when you said that Wilmington is one of the highest cities with pedestrians getting hit. What are the numbers, do you know?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers before me. That was based on a crash rate, so it's number of crashes per population, so it's based on kind of a per capita type of number. I think that, it's not something that we saw that was so dramatically beyond Raleigh or Durham or Charlotte, but it just happened to be that it was the highest crash rate in the state amongst major cities. But I would think that in general, when you look at across the United States, the worst states for pedestrian crashes are the southern tier of the United States. So, Florida, Tennessee, North Carolina are typically some of the worst for pedestrian safety. So, I think it's just something to keep in mind that it's just part of sort of a more of a kind of global issue when I say the southern United States, partially because, one, it's always good weather for walking year-round, so you've got more activity. But second, the way we've built out our communities, potentially with suburban sprawl, so we have a lot more spread in our populations. And so when you've got high-speed roadways and destinations in between, you're creating environments that aren't as hospitable. So I wouldn't feel too horribly about it, but I think it's also good motivation to get off that list. NCDOT does that analysis every couple of years to see how cities are doing. So I think that's one of the goals of the plan, is to drop down, not be the leader in that statistic.
And you mentioned that there were some hot spots, right? Where were they?
Yeah, no, I think, in many cases, and I'll pull this back up so you can see that, we went about it a little bit of a different way. These were some of the focus areas based on our analysis that we thought were the most important to look at. But you can see some of these roadways, and very typically there are arterial roadways, some of our major roadways that are carrying a lot of vehicular traffic. So that's where you see some of that conflict. You might have more lanes to cross as a pedestrian, you might have higher speeds along those roadways, and so those became the focus areas based mostly on where those crashes are happening. So it's going to require a lot of collaboration with NCDOT and cooperation with NCDOT as well. Some of these are going to be state-owned roadways, but these are some of those streets that really rose to the top in terms of where those crashes were happening.
Thank you.
Yep.
Matt, real quick, did you do an evaluation also of our crosswalks, the timing mechanisms, and how long or how short the timing mechanisms to cross a major roadway, like an Oleander Drive or College Road?
Yeah, so at the citywide scale, we didn't do it for every single roadway crossing. We did look very closely at these focus areas where some of those improvements are needed from your interval, pedestrian interval, and where you might need more time to cross. We do have some general design guidance around pedestrian intervals and making sure there's adequate time to cross. Also lead pedestrian intervals, which I think the city has implemented some of those. That's the idea, where a pedestrian actually gets a little bit of a head start and they're out into the roadway environment for motorists to see. So broadly we did from a kind of looking at global design guidance, but then we only got into some of those specifics you mentioned on some of these specific roads.
Okay, very good. Tony, real quick, I thought that in the 2014 transportation bond, and I may be mistaken in saying this, that Wooster and Dawson Street did have some money put into them for improvements. I see Tom was shaking his head back there. Excuse me?
I believe there was, yes.
So part of that was the improvement of sidewalks and?
And crossing signals, as I recall.
Okay, so that's part of the bond money that we have there. Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you all very much.
Very good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our next item of business, which is our consent agenda, items 1 through 5. Are there any items that any council member would like to hear separately? If not, what are the wishes of council? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Ravenbark. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our public information. We have one speaker that has signed up to speak with us this evening, Mr. Andrew Blank, who will be speaking to us about RP1's Council's Appointments Committees for Boards and Commissions. Mr. Blank, is Mr. Blank here? There you go.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. My name is Andrew Blank. I'm here to speak with you about Agenda Item RP1, Council's Appointments Committee for Boards and Commissions. After serving as a submariner in the U.S. Navy, I was honorably discharged. I moved to Wilmington from San Diego in August 2021. When I arrived in the city, I didn't know a single person. However, I quickly fell in love with this place. I love every barista at Bespoke, knows my regular order. They're my friends now. We go to Dave Matthews concerts at Live Oak together. They're genuine friends. I love the Run Club at Highwire, regulars at Pallet, biking river to sea. Wilmington is home for me now. And so last fall, I bought a condo in the Brooklyn Arts District. And there's so many people like me in my generation who moved here in the past few years to work remotely by the beach. Why not? We're new to this area, we're eager to get involved, and for us, boards, commissions, and committees present a perfect opportunity. They give us a chance to bring fresh perspectives, diverse experiences, innovative ideas to the table, shaping the future of Wilmington and improving the lives of our neighbors. So I was encouraged when you talked about this at the end of last month's meeting and in your presentation in May 2022. However, the lack of transparency surrounding the appointments process leads to the appearance of impropriety, even if that's not truly the case. So first, let's take a moment to acknowledge the composition of the appointments committee. 3 out of the 5 non-mayor and mayor pro tem council members are white, and that is the entire composition of the appointments committee. And I don't question your individual capabilities or your character, but this lack of diversity within the committee, it fails to center diversity and equitable redistribution of power via these positions. My concerns are further compounded by recent appointments that involve personal relationships and professional connections between appointment committee members. So tonight, one appointment is being made for Lindsay Hess, who happens to be a fellow senior vice president at Cape Fear Commercial, just like Councilman Rivenbark, and listed Councilman Waddell as one of her references, who's CEO, founder, principal broker at Cadence Realty Corp. A second appointee tonight, Joanne Daly, listed Councilman Rivenbark as our first reference. The third and final new at-large appointee tonight, Rainey Wallace, is a broker at Intercoastal Realty. So while I understand that personal and professional relationships and connections exist, I think it's vital for the appointments process that these factors don't unduly influence the selection of candidates. We need a fair and transparent system that ensures qualified individuals from all backgrounds have an equal opportunity to serve our community. So tonight's appointments alarmed me. I thought maybe there was sustained systemic corruption happening throughout this committee. So I reviewed every single new appointee made for the past year, and I was planning to bring you all this data about corruption. It turns out that's not actually the case at all. So no appointee has used a sitting council member as a reference since October of 2022, when Councilman Rivenbark was reference number 1 on Christine's appointment to Wilmington Municipal Golf Advisory Board. But there's been 22 new appointees since then, and none of them use city council members as a reference. So you probably are doing a fair, equitable job in the appointments committee, and there's no data to say that you're not. However, the lack of transparency surrounding the appointments process, coupled with tonight's acute, explicit overrepresentation of personal connections, can be incredibly discouraging for citizens like me. It creates an impression that these positions are only accessible to those who have personal relationships with you and or who run in real estate circles. This perception hinders the essence of community engagement and undermines the principles of fairness and inclusivity that should govern our citizen-run boards, commissions, and committees. So within this context, I bring you my recommendation today. To address these issues and promote transparency, I recommend the City Council make one simple, free, easy, immediate process improvement. Publish at least the names, if not the full applications, of all individuals who apply to boards, commissions, and committees, not just the new appointees that your committee brings to these meetings. By embracing transparency, you'll foster an environment where citizens like myself can feel confident that the selection process is fair and unbiased. It will allow us to evaluate the diversity and qualifications of the candidates, give us reassurance that our community is being represented and served by the most qualified individuals. And to reiterate, I have no concerns with the character or the qualifications of the council members or the appointees, but that lack of transparency hurts this council. I've applied to 2 county boards, 1 city board, relevant to my experience and interests. I haven't been selected yet, but I do want to serve. And by embracing transparency within the appointments process, you can give that warm fuzzy to citizens like me looking to engage in local government. We're out here, we love the city, we care about the city. We just don't know you. So let us in, and the city's collective process will be better for it. Thanks for your time tonight and for the work you do for our city.
I want to respond to that. Our appointment committee, all of our boards and commissions, the meetings are wide open. Where have you been?
Absolutely, yes, sir. I've watched a few of them online.
You've been here since 2021. You say you don't know a lot of people. I've been here since 1948. I can't prevent somebody from putting my name as a reference. If I see that and I can't do it, I withdraw it. So I take a little exception to that. And Mr. Waddell, Mr. Anderson, this committee with this makeup has only been in effect since the last election. And before that, it was me, Ms. Haynes, and Kevin O'Grady, who is no longer on council. And I would invite you to come to any of our meetings there in the downstairs conference room. And if you've gone through all of our boards and commissions, have you noticed the vacancies that we have?
Absolutely. There are
We
many
struggle to
vacancies.
get qualified people to even apply.
Yes, sir.
So at least we have an appointments committee here at the city. The county does not.
You're right, absolutely. I tried to find a comparison from another county or city, and you're right. We have a better process, in my opinion.
Thank
than
you, sir.
Comparable cities, yes, sir.
Mr. Anderson.
Sir, what committee have you applied for?
Wilmington Tree Commission is what I was hoping to get on tonight. I see I'm not on the agenda.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you about, well, let me tell you, I mean, I was just really reiterating what Charlie said. We, and Margaret, I think would agree, having served she was on it a long time and chair, we have a hard time filling these things. This is not we have to literally, things go unfilled for months on end. We're out like calling people to say, hey, you're an engineer, would you like to do it? No, we need an accountant right now on one of these committees. We can't find one. So to say that we're choosing, we're just struggling to fill them. So there's I welcome you and all your friends that you know to apply to things that are appropriate. We do look for some, some connections. We don't, not tangential to, so if someone applies and they have some background in trees, they may jump you. That's just kind of the way we try to look at what's the connection. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's just not, I appreciate your comments, respect them. It's just not a long way from reality as to what we're dealing with. I have to, look at all the empty spots, pick them, get anybody, help us fill them, please.
Absolutely, yes, sir. And I think if you published all the applicants, then we could see that you're struggling to find applicants.
There's a book that Penny has that has all of them in there. Yeah, it's all, so it's there. So you're asking for something that's there.
Spears.
Thank you. Usually with the tree commission, people have volunteered for, helping. They need muscle like you to plant these trees and carry that stuff and do it. And so the way people generally end up on there is that they have volunteered and worked and worked and worked, and the people that have been on the tree commission, that is their leadership, generally sort of recommends some of their volunteers. So I would encourage you, maybe you've already done that, and I would just encourage you, whether it's Parks and Rec or it's trees or whatever it is, we'd love to have you, but people have to know who you are and have worked with you and have a sense of confidence in your ability.
Absolutely. That's the effort that those of us who moved here recently will try to make for you. Appreciate that, ma'am.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Spears.
All right.
What's your name again, sir?
Andrew Blank, sir.
Here's a surefire way to get yourself selected. Just use me as your reference. Just use me. I'm certain that'll get you selected for a board, okay? Put me down. Let's test that theory, all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, sir.
I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate you, coming up and speaking about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next item of business is item PH1, which is an ordinance directing the housing inspector to vacate, close, and repair or demolish a dwelling at 3613 Beatrice Street as unfit for human habitation, and direct that a notice be placed thereon prohibiting its use or occupancy. At this time, I'd like to recognize City Manager Mr. Caudill. Mr. Caudill.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Our Chief Code Enforcement Officer, Brian Renner, will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Tonight we're going to talk about 3613 Beatrice Street. Some of you may not know where this is at. It's actually located off River Road near Melton Road. You can see here I put a little map in there just in case you weren't familiar. This is a 750 square foot single family house. It was built in 1950. The property is currently vacant. This is another heiress property, Francis Lanier and Toby Lanier. We have had some contact with the family over the long course of this case, but have not come to a resolution on this yet. This is the view from Beatrice Street. Beatrice actually ends at this property. We started this case back in November of 2019 from a neighbor complaint about the conditions. We took this to Housing Code hearing in June of 2021. We did have one of the family members attend that hearing. Their plan at that time was to get an attorney, clear the title, and rebuild the house. This is zoned commercial, so it makes it a little bit more complicated when you're talking about tearing the house down and building something new residential there. But there are provisions that allow for continued habitability of this property. So that order expired in March of 2022. That order had the building's value, and it is the current 2023 building value of $11,000. Our estimated cost to repair that, $24,872, puts us well over our 50%, which would be dilapidated. These are the sections of the minimum housing code. They're outlined in the findings of fact that's included with this item. And now we'll look at some photos. Just the front shot and the back shot, we have significant issues with the roof. As we can see, there's a lot of water intrusion that come into this building. We also have a lot of issues with the floor, and there are a lot of unsanitary conditions, trash, garbage, rodents, and things like that inside this building. Here's that. You see the bathroom and holes in the floor. And other issues. So with this, we did just board this building earlier this month. When we went out there, we found it to be unsecured. We did clean up the lot, and we're working to try to maintain that lot. There was a lot of trash and garbage on the property. We have $6,952 in public nuisance liens against this property, and only about 1,000 of that was added, or only about 1,500 of that was added in the last 30 days. So historically, we've had quite a bit in liens on this property. What we're looking at with this ordinance is, since we did just board the property, we're looking to maintain that authority to keep this building secured. So you'll see that immediate authority to maintain the dwelling is vacant. And then we're looking at a 90-day repair or demolish on this for the owners to do something with the property. If they were not, then we would consider moving forward with demolition. And I'm here if there's any questions.
Is anybody living in the house, Brian?
No, the house is vacant.
House is vacant. Okay, very good. Mr. Ravenbar?
Yes, sir. I mean, I just can't conceive of anybody rebuilding this. I mean, we see a lot of sad sights. This one, the only thing I saw in there that was even used was the curtains, and they're hanging up. So I want to make sure if we approve this tonight, at the end of 90 days, it's time to fish or cut bait. 90 days.
It's a new fiscal year. I can make that happen, sir.
Okay. And what is it? Is this like sitting on a 100 by 200, or is it like a half acre, or?
If I recall, let me check my photo.
I looked, I didn't see.
I don't know if I had the lot dimensions on that. So the lot that you see highlighted there, it's probably like a 50 by 100 or something. And then the family actually owns that lot to the north as well. Okay.
So, I mean, it's certainly something that's sellable, and, you know, somebody could come along and build two nice houses. Okay, I just want to make sure that, you know, and it's just the way our process works. From time to time, we'll have something like this, and in the 90 days, somebody marches in, we give them another 180 or whatever. But 90 days on this one, the clock stops ticking. Okay, thank you, sir.
Brian, to Mr. Ravenbar's point, the zoning on this is, did you say light industrial?
I believe it's, I believe I'd have to look. I don't know if I wrote it down, but it was something that came up during
You said commercial, but you didn't give the designation as to what it was.
I think it's CB.
CB?
I think it is. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look.
And there are houses that are around this property, other houses, residential properties?
There are, yeah. So if you look at this map, the properties to the south, one property owner owns all of those, and they have multiple houses and structures on there.
But you could rebuild, I mean, you could build another house on here?
Right.
With the current zoning being commercial, or?
If they were to rebuild on the same foundation or rebuild within a certain time period underneath the city's land development code that allows for that continued non-conforming use,
Right.
Seeing as the property's been vacant for so long, that would be a question for our planning department.
Okay. All right, very good. Okay, Mr. Barnett.
Again, you mentioned, I know it's air property, and you're saying there's no contact. I mean, you've contacted someone? Tell me that again, what you said.
We have had contact with one of the family members, and she may be here tonight. She called her office earlier this week, and my officer called her back, and he didn't update me on what that conversation was. But so I would definitely be interested if she were here. Our conversation with her back in 2021 was that, again, she was going to hire an attorney, work to clear the title, take the house down to the foundation and rebuild it. We were in contact earlier this year, and that had not come to fruition. They had planned on renovating it, but no progress.
Okay. Is she here? You said you didn't know. I was asking. Okay. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Brian. Is the property owner here? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone in the public would like to speak on behalf of item PH1. Madam Clerk, have you received any comments, correspondence, or anything like that? Okay, very good. Any further questions from council? Okay. I will now close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Spears. Discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Waddell, second by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes. Discussion? All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our ordinances. I will state for the record, we're hearing most of these are our budget. Item 01A, 01B, 01C, and 01D are all budget related and are being heard on a second reading. I believe that we have to take each one of these individually, correct? Okay, so we'll go start with item 01A, which is the ordinance making appropriations to the general fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. And I can recognize the city manager. Quick.
Mr. Mayor, as this is the second reading of this ordinance and in a 7-month-long building process, we do not have a presentation for you, but we do stand ready to answer any questions council may have.
Okay, very good. Okay, does the council have any additional questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Waddell.
Other than the issue of the stipend increase for council, which I brought up last meeting, I have no intention of belaboring that point. I think I've said enough on that. I do have a couple items that I think warrant some discussion with the budget. The first is the Safe Light program, which I've been able to, thanks to Jennifer, been able to figure out that costs us $165,000 in 2021, cost us almost double that, $222,000 in 2022. So I'm not sure what we're anticipating the cost to be this year or going into this budget, but it seems to me like a losing proposition. And I'm just wondering if there's anybody on council who has these same questions that I might have, or perhaps there's somebody on staff who might be able to educate me on why this program is worth us losing hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars every year.
When it's been at least 2 and maybe 3 contractual updates that we've had of this program, this discussion has come up fairly frequently. Generally speaking, the red light cameras do reduce crash incidents at intersections. We've had the opportunity with the new advent of the newest contract to be able to move locations of cameras. We can certainly provide you with data that talks about how much they have been reduced, at which intersections, where they have been moved to and where they've been moved from. So we certainly can do that. But generally speaking, it is a safety measure at these particular intersections. There are some times when police activity is enhanced by these cameras, but generally speaking, we're not prepared to answer a quantitative question tonight. We will be more than glad to put information together for you with regard to which intersections have been changed or markedly changed as a result of the placement or the removal thereof.
So we anticipate this next year moving some of these Safe Light cameras and being able to then actually have quantitative data to say whether or not it reduces accidents?
I have not conferred with the traffic engineering staff regarding whether or not they planned on moving or leaving in place the existing red light cameras, but there have been other intersections at which these cameras have been located. They've been moved to new intersections, not all of them, but a few of them at one time. We would be able to do some sort of quantitative analysis on what's happened in the past.
How about with regards to the actual cost to the city? So, I mean, there's a reimbursement, and then there's the actual cost to the city that I know we split with the county. It looks like it's gone up year over year. Do we anticipate that to continue to increase?
I would imagine that it will continue to increase as traffic increases. I mean, generally, that's the trend line, as you've noted.
So it's on a per-use base?
I'm about to get in over my head. Okay, Laura, if you want to. And Dennis DeVille Kenowitz is in the back if he wants to add anything to it.
Generally, it's based by the fines that we collect, so 90% goes to the schools, and then the rest of it is ours to pay the services that we have. So half of that is split up to $234,000 for the county right now, and then we do the rest of it. But we do not always pay the $234. It's based upon the number of fines.
2021, we paid, like, our loss was $165,000. 2022, our loss was $222,000. So are we charged based on, if we have more fines, then our cost goes up?
That might have to be Dennis.
Yes, sir, Mr. Waddell. It's for every paid citation is when the cost becomes the city's responsibility. The way I like to say this is we're paying for a service. We're paying for a safety service, just like we pay for power service, cable service. This system is to enhance the safety at the intersections, not just these intersections, because it's transferable to every intersection. Once people learn that, you know, you're not supposed to run red lights, which they should when they receive their driver's license, regardless of where these cameras are, it should treat every intersection the same.
But it's safe to assume that if it was $222,000 in 2022, we're going to see a higher amount as we see more cars on the road. The cost of the city will be higher.
The cost will go up incrementally more, in my opinion. What happened between 2021 and 2022 is we received new equipment. That equipment was much higher quality video, much higher quality images. It was able to capture, if more than one car ran a single red light, it could capture both vehicles. So there was an increase in effectivity of the system itself. Okay. So that has stabilized this year. This year we're on track, almost identical to 2022.
I'd be eager to see, I don't know if anybody else would, but I would be eager to see data on if it actually mitigates crashes.
Sure. I'll do my best.
I do have another point, but I think Councilman Anderson and
We have Mr. Anderson and Mr. Barnett that are queued up, but we can go back to you, Mr. Waddell. Yes, sir, Mr. Anderson.
Well, I mean, I recall, I don't know, the first or second budget I was involved with, in several sentences, Tony said it comes up. I think we're somewhere in the middle. You know, it's not front and center issue in terms of building the budget. But you know, and then it gets discussed at the end, and you know, I think it's hard to make a case at this late hour to drop it. What I would advocate is it not get missed this time, and that our very first budget work session, whether I'm here or not, is the data is presented, and we can see that it is creating a safer intersection, and the data does support the expense. So, I mean, that's just at a second reading. I don't know that we can. I'd love to know more, and I would love to know the data that Luke's referring to. But I hope saw Tony making notes. I hope first budget work session of this fiscal that we can get in the weeds on it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as an individual who has contributed to that fund, I do recognize that I slow down when I come to the lights. Okay, and I guess one of the part that you really can't find with the data is that the number of people who actually slow down and don't go through the yellow light because, you know, the light's on, it's going to catch me. You know, so I think it works. I mean, I know it works. And I guess the other part is that it's just, you know, I'm glad you explained to us that the big jump was because we bought more material or a better camera. I'm glad that was explained. But also, the other thing I think about is I don't want anybody to run through that red light and lose their life. And we, you know, wrestle with that. So, but as a person who has contributed to that fund, unfortunately more than once, I do recognize it, and I do slow down, and I try to drive better. So that does work.
I've been ticketed, and I knew it as soon as I went through it. But the thing that gets me is not what everybody up here is saying about it does work. Everybody out there that drives on the streets of Wilmington sees people running red lights, especially the turn signals. 3 and 4 and 5 cars on a red light at the busy intersections where they've been waiting probably for 2 cycles. I get it. But people run red lights, and I was here when we first put this program back in the 90s, and we had the top 25 intersections, the bad ones. Coville Avenue and Wrightsville Avenue, which is not even an intersection anymore because they changed the pattern, was number 1. In 6 months, it wasn't even on the list. So they work. And in those days, we got all the money. But then they said we have to give 90% of it to the school board, which is a good place to give it. But what always galled me was we didn't get to keep enough to fund it. So I agree with you. It's a service that we provide. And in Luke's neighborhood, I'd be willing to bet my hat that if you took the red light camera away from 23rd and Market Street, it'd go wild. It just would, because I see people run it. Oh, I bet they make a fortune off of that stoplight.
It's a popular intersection.
It sure is. Thank you, Dennis. Thank
you. Okay, Mr. Spears.
And, you know, I think everybody said what's needed to be said, but I think we're also missing a point from the Walk on Wilmington presentation, where the statistics show that we are the highest in North Carolina for crashes. I don't know how many times over the past 4 years I've complained about wanting brighter street lights, because, I mean, we are seeing people crash. We're seeing people get run over. It's pretty dangerous. So I think that's just the cost we might have to pay for safety in our community. I wish we had more. I have not participated and have not donated to the fund because I tend to stop when the light is red. Not yellow, but red.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I will just agree with what's been said here, especially with Mr. Anderson, that we're a bit late in the game here, so it definitely should be on the agenda in the next cycle. But I think it's really important to perhaps, this would be state legislation, I assume, to change that communities should be able to recoup what it cost you to run the program. And so perhaps you have some contacts and other people have contacts to talk with your state legislators and get this changed. That would be a very admirable goal. But I will say, not only is it safety versus dollars, but it's also a way that while we have no responsibility for the New Hanover County schools, it is a way that we're able to contribute and to help support activities within the school system.
Cool.
Yeah, the other item, I realize this is a second reading, and I apologize for not bringing it up in the first reading. That's an oversight on my part. We had some minor discussion on this and never really had more full discussion during any work session, or there was a small portion of the agenda briefing. But I think it does bear further discussion, and now may be the forum to do it. But it's the creation of the completely new department, the Housing and Neighborhood Services Department. I'm a little bit at a loss for the lack of input from council on the creation of this department. And it comes with a new $200,000 position to include salary and benefits and then proposed operating costs. Mr. Manager, I know you sent an email, a lengthy email kind of detailing your reasoning behind it, but I don't know, I would like to have some more discussion on it. And I may be the only one, but it caught me by surprise, and I still am unclear at the reasoning for creating this department.
I'll try one more time, and hopefully it'll be a little clearer this time than the last. When the Community Services Department was together, there were similar services. The housing married up with some of the community services that were offered on the recreation side. The problem that we've come to now is that both of those sides of the house, so to speak, have become very well used and popular. The community, or the recreation side of the house in particular, has grown dramatically over the past few years, with many new facilities being added and additional responsibilities being added. The housing side of the issue is one reason we brought this forward as a separate department, simply because there's not only more money being placed into housing by the council, but there's also more emphasis on housing throughout the community. In addition, those things that are associated with housing and homelessness are rising to be asked to be given more attention over the course of the time. What happens when this workload on both sides of the ledger opens up is it means that not only the leadership of those departments gets overwhelmed, but then the leadership of the manager, the deputy manager that oversees that, has to get involved, and sometimes it's not as comprehensive a look as we'd like to have. That, in a nutshell, is the reason for doing this. I would hope that the Housing and Neighborhood Services Department would grow as we go through the years, and the responsibilities and the emphasis on neighborhoods in this community become more and more of a way of doing business. But that doesn't mean that it will. I just think the workload of the two sides of the house has gotten such that we need to divide this out, and we need to put more emphasis on housing and neighborhood services.
I'll let other questions be asked, but I would certainly request that in the future we have 4 work sessions a year, budget work sessions. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If there's a potential to create an entire new department, that should be a large part of the conversation in budget work sessions. This one caught me, and I think some others, off guard.
Mr. Anderson?
Well, it wasn't what I intended to say originally, but I would say I would agree with that last statement. I mean, we need certainly that something that big that's happening should have been discussed before we read it in the budget. But Tony, what I hear you saying is this was all being, I guess, the head of this department is this Amy?
Yes. Community service, yes, sir.
So Ms. Beatty was the head of all this, and essentially,
yes, sir.
We've added Live Oak, we've added a whole host of new things. We're going to have soccer coming on, yada yada. Recreation parks has grown, and then you look on the other side, and our commitment to trying to help making housing more affordable, homeless, all that stuff, is that piece, that side of what her department does is growing larger. It's just gotten too much for one person. So you're essentially splitting it into two departments. So there's someone that's can manage it mentally, fiscally, time-wise. Is that's
Yes,
what
sir.
I took away from the earlier.
Yes, sir.
And we're really, I guess we're adding one person. It just happens to be a head, so it's a higher dollar
Yes, sir.
job, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Barnett?
I agree with the concept. I think that it's definitely needed, especially with the emphasis that we're trying to put on helping those persons who are homeless and the housing piece. And as mentioned by Councilman Neal, the recreational side is continuing to grow. You know, it's continuing to grow. So I think it's a good idea.
Mr. Spears?
I just want to add in that in the last discussion, work session, you all were having a discussion about this. I was remote in my office yelling, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" And we concluded the work session. I did have questions, and life got busy. I reached out to you, and you reached back out to me, and we missed each other, but I did have concerns. But, you know, so Luke, you weren't alone with trying to get more information about it, and I would agree that we need to put a little more focus into it the next time. Well, whenever another office creation or department creation is going to happen. So I agree with that.
Duly noted.
Mr. Ravenmark?
Tony, how long has housing, code enforcement, parks, forestry, recreation, and right-of-way been in one department, under one umbrella?
At least 15 years.
Okay. And this necessity comes about as a result of just growth?
Growth and growth not only in workload, but growth in focus.
Growth in what?
Growth and focus.
I got it. Okay. But I agree with Luke that something of this, I mean, it's a new department. I mean, it's not like we're adding a staff member. It's
Yes,
a new
sir.
department. We should hear about it earlier.
I understand completely.
Anybody else? All right. All right, what are the wishes of council in respect to 01A? We have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, second by Councilmember Spears. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes 6-1. That brings us to our next item, which is item 01B, which is an ordinance making appropriations to the grant projects, financial plans, enterprise funds, debit service fund, and special tax district for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. Comments, questions? If not, what are the wishes of council in respect to item 01B? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Spears. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item, which is item 01C, which is an ordinance making appropriations to the Capital Projects Fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. Questions, comments, or wishes of council? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Spears, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. And that brings us to item 01D, which is an ordinance amending various chapters of the City of Wilmington fee schedule for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023. Questions, comments, or wishes of council? We have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, second by Councilmember Waddell. We do have discussion. Mr. Spears.
Again, during the work session, is this the ordinance item where we were talking about the allocations from fees and what went where? Because where's Amy?
We could, yes. Amy, are you looking for Amy Beatty?
Yeah, because we were talking about the amount of money that came from
for the gym
fees, yeah, and so a lot of the money that went to the gym and to MOK, it was like $1 out of the fees that we charge, and I expressed during that time that I would like to see it be differently. And I do understand that this is the second reading, but it needs to be on the forefront for the next time because those facilities are way behind.
I think what you're speaking of is the committed revenue that they were going to do for that facility, and we decided to pause on a lot of the Parks and Rec so we could do a fee study to see what we should actually charge system-wide. So it is not in the current fee schedule but it will be looked at during that study.
Okay, but even if it wasn't about changing the amount that we were charging, it was about changing the amount that we allocated.
As I recall, there was a question about a surcharge of $1 that would go towards that particular facility, and I asked the staff that we wait
No,
on doing.
not the surcharge. What, like for every dollar, there's a certain amount so citizens of Wilmington pay what? For the boxing center, what do they pay? $56, $60, something like that? But I think what we took back from those fees that we put back into the facility was like $1. But at Muni, it was $5 or $6.
And that's what Laura is referring to. We need some consistency across the board as to what gets charged and what percentage of the cost we're trying to recover through the fees.
Okay, so that's out.
And we're going to do
it is
that
out.
this year. That's in our work plan for this year, so we can incorporate it in next year's budget.
Okay, make sure I'm a part of it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, what are the wishes of council in respect to item 01D? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item 02, which is an ordinance to amend various funds to comply with the accounting requirements of GASB, Statement Number 87 regarding leases, and of GASB Statement Number 96 regarding subscription-based information technology arrangements, and establish a debit service fund reserve. Mouthful, but thank you.
Yes, sir. it is.
Manager.
Ms. Jennifer Moretti, our finance officer, will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. The ordinance before you this evening is needed to record the impacts of the new Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB Statement 87 on leases effective last fiscal year, and GASB Statement 96 on subscription-based information technology arrangements effective in the current fiscal year. These new standards require the city to record the right to use assets as a liability for the term of the lease or subscription, similar to a debt payment, instead of recording these as annual expenses. The change in accounting for these items requires a budget to record the full value of the lease or subscription based on the terms of the arrangements, which exceed 1 year. The additional item included with this ordinance is to properly account for a potential arbitrage liability related to debt financings where we have received a low financing rate on tax-exempt debt and now may be receiving investment income at a higher rate on the unspent proceeds being held in escrow. This ordinance establishes a reserve in the debt service fund to properly account for these liabilities. Staff is requesting approval of the ordinance to allow for the proper accounting of these items for the current fiscal year. Any questions?
Any questions for Jennifer? Okay.
All right,
Thank you, Jennifer. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Spears. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item, which is item 03, an ordinance making supplemental appropriation in the amount of $482,153 from the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund to add an accessible playground and outdoor fitness equipment at Maids Park. The budget impact is $482,153. This time I'd like to recognize City Manager, Mr. Cheatham, Mr. Cottle. I don't know, I had him on my mind just now. Sorry about that. Mr. Cottle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Amy Beatty, our Community Services Director, will overview this item.
It's a blast from the past. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. As part of the Community Services Department's work plan within the annual allocation of Parks capital dollars, we planned to replace the Maids Park Playground this year. After a community engagement campaign, staff made application to the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund's Accessibility and Parks Grant to expand the scope of the project. So instead of replacing the structure with a similar structure that's there now, the grant award will allow for expansion of the playground to change out the playground surface from mulch to a rubberized, all-accessible surface, replace the current picnic shelter with a new one with accessible sidewalk connections, and to add fully accessible fitness equipment. This meets several goals in the recently adopted Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Plan to include upgrading parks to meet latest trends and community needs, upgrade parks to improve inclusivity and further ADA compliance, and to enhance a park system of equal access. The total cost of the project is $657,153. The grant award is $482,153, and the local match of $175 is already budgeted in that annual allocation of Parks Capital Fund. Staff recommends passage of the ordinance.
Are there any questions for Amy? Mr. Spears?
2 words. MLK Jim.
MLK
I
Jim.
told you, I'm going to do it every time. I'm going to do it every time until I see something happen, until we break ground, until I see the orange plastic fencing go around where the annex is supposed to be. I'm going to mention this every single time as long as I'm here.
My last correspondence with the engineering department is that they were waiting for the stormwater permits from the state. As soon as they have those, we're able to bid the project. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I believe we do have individuals from engineering tonight who can corroborate that. Also, I meant to add in my presentation that this playground will make the 4th all-inclusive park with the rubberized surface. So the playground at MLK, at Maids will now have the same surface as the one at Olson Park, MP Park, and Riverfront Park.
And while we're here, I was in a very interesting discussion last night, and Wilmington's Parks and Recreations came up, and I explained things about perspective. But our parks and recreation services that we have are really in high demand. And the services that we provide, especially for children in our recreational centers, I mean, you stop me if I'm wrong, but we're at the max, and we have a lot of waiting lists, and for a lot of the sports programs that we have, you have them fill up really quickly, and you have to get other teams and things like that. So we are pretty popular as it relates to parks and recreation in this community, but we could always do a better job.
You're 100% correct. Many of our programs are at capacity and do have waiting lists, so they are in demand.
And I will say thank you to staff for the good job that they do.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or concerns for Ms. Beatty? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So what are the wishes of council? I believe we have a motion from Mr. Spears and a second from Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And that passes unanimously. Is there a motion to waive second reading? We have a motion from Mr. Barnett, a second by Mr. Spears. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? That also passes unanimously. So we are now on 04B, which is an ordinance reducing the speed limit from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour along all streets in the Rivers Edge neighborhood. And I will look to our city manager, Mr. Cottle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. City Traffic Engineer Dennis Vukunowitz will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. This evening, for your consideration is an ordinance to reduce the speed limit to 25 miles per hour on all public streets within the River's Edge neighborhood. It's located at 4200 Independence Boulevard. According to the WMPO's roadway functional classification, all of these streets are classified as local roads that provide access exclusively to residential land uses. The neighborhood has a single point of access via Riverfront Place to the greater public road network at Independence Boulevard. It's constrained environmentally by wetlands, so this is the only point of, there's only one point of access in and out. Therefore, daily reoccurring usage of these roadways is nearly exclusively to the residents and their guests. The residents of River's Edge have demonstrated the required consensus to reduce the speed limit from 35 to 25 miles per hour by submitting the attached petition in the packet as required by the Wilmington Neighborhood Traffic Program 25 mile per hour speed limit reduction policy. This policy was approved by City Council in September of 2021. Due to meeting the needs of the petition, staff recommends passage of the ordinance.
Are there any questions for staff? Mr. Barnett?
When I was looking at the list and the names, and when it said owner occupied, and they go false or true, so I guess false means it's not occupied by the owner?
Correct. It would most likely be a rental unit.
Okay, all right. I was just trying to get some understanding on that. I'm in favor.
Mr. Robinbark?
There's no outlet in this. This is for their own neighbors.
Exactly.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions or concerns? Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
What are the wishes of council? We have a motion by Mr. Barnett, a second by Mr. Spears. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Is there a motion to waive second reading? I have a motion by Mr. Barnett, a second by Mr. Spears. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Also passes unanimously. We're now 05, which is an ordinance accepting and appropriating funds from the 2022 Assistance to Firefighters Grant to purchase equipment, modify facilities, provide for training, assist with wellness and fitness programs, and purchase personal protective equipment in the amount of $48,375. And I will ask Mr. Caudle, our city manager, to comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Assistant Fire Chief Tom Robinson will overview this item.
Good evening, Madam Pro Tem and council members. The Assistance to Firefighters Grant that we've been awarded is an amount of $48,375. Our intent with that is to purchase 25 self-contained breathing apparatus bottles to replace some that have been damaged over the years with training and other things. That was $33,375, and then we're going to order a fire pump and tank as a replacement for one of our brush units, which is over 24 years old, which is at $15,000 right now. As a total, the $48,375, and this does have a $4,398 local match.
Are there any questions or concerns for staff? And what are the wishes of council? We have a motion from Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Barnett. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Is there a motion to waive second reading? We have a motion by Mr. Spears, a second by Mr. Robinbark. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That also passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. We're to resolutions.
Okay, all right, resolution. Gotcha. Okay, next item of business is our resolutions. Item R1 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with SHI International Corporation for Microsoft Enterprise Licensing Agreement. I'd like to recognize City Manager Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our IT Director, Brian Scott, will overview this item.
Thank you, Mr. Caudle. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. This resolution is seeking permission to renew our Microsoft Enterprise License Agreement. This agreement covers all city PCs and servers. It covers things like our operating system, email systems, our team software, and server software, and other desktop software. This agreement is for a 3-year term, and we ask if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions, staff? Okay. What are the wishes of council with respect to the resolution? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Spears. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to item R2, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a 4-year master license agreement with Dell Financial Services, LLC of Round Rock, Texas, for an annual cost not to exceed $200,000. At this time, I'd like to recognize City Manager Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Scott will overview this item as well.
Thank you again, Mr. Cottle. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council member, this resolution is giving staff permission to lease computers from Dell Technologies, or Dell Financial in this case, to replace our outdated machines. We are doing this annually. Are there any questions that I can help answer?
Sir, Mr. Spears.
We're doing this annually?
Yes, we have moved to a PC as a service model, so that way we have our machines replaced every 4 years, and that way we don't have older computers like now. We have 6- and 7-year-old machines out there.
Okay, that makes sense. Every 4 years. You said annually, so that was kind of...
Yeah, so next year we'll be back doing the same thing, get another batch of machines. So every year we have to come back to you to get a batch for that year that will last for 4 years, and then we'll come back. We don't replace every machine in this city. We do it on a 4-year cycle.
Yeah, it's staggered.
Yes, sir. That's correct. Thank you.
But we'll always be behind.
No, we're hoping to catch up.
We'll always have some that are behind.
There's always something new coming out, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
What are the wishes of council? We have a motion to approve by Councilman Rivenbark, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to item R3, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to request additional STBGA-DA funding from the Wilmington Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization in the amount of $960,000 with a required $240,000 local grant match from the city for the Hooker Road multi-use path, Hinton Avenue multi-use path, and Wrightsville Avenue and Greenville Avenue intersection improvements projects. This time I'd like to recognize the city manager, Mr. Caudle. Mr. Caudle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike Naklicki, the division project manager, will overview this item. There were a number of items that came about, you had questions about this morning during the agenda briefing. Mike is going to try to answer those questions as well as give you an overview of this item.
Okay,
Mike?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I was going to give a brief update on the Hooker-Hinton multi-use path and Wrightsville-Greenville intersection project. Real quick, I'll just go over a reminder of the project scope, regional planning, a budget update, which will include the resolution before you tonight, a status on the property acquisition, and estimated schedule. As a reminder, the project scope includes these 3 projects: Hooker Road multi-use path, which is about 3,800 linear feet of 8-foot wide multi-use path that runs from Wrightsville Avenue to Mallard Drive and Rose Avenue, which connects to the current Cross-City Trail behind UNCW. The other project lumped in here is the Hinton Avenue multi-use path, which is about 2,000 linear feet of 8-foot wide multi-use path from the River to Sea Bikeway at Park Avenue down to Greenville Avenue. And lastly, connecting these 2 projects are the Wrightsville-Greenville intersection improvement project, which also includes an intersection realignment and new sidewalks and bike lanes along Greenville Ave. These 3 projects are currently being managed together for expediency due to their close geographic proximity, and also the hopes to be able to get good bids when we bring it out for bidding. Question came up about why Hooker Road. I know there's been a lot of questions from the residents out there and whether or not there is an alternative. I'd like to remind council that there are several plans out there that support the interconnectivity of the current and the future facilities throughout this region. So without the Hooker Road connection, we don't have that connection from Hooker Road to Wrightsville Avenue, to Greenville Avenue, and to Hinton Avenue. This completes the link between the Cross City Trail that is behind UNCW, also one that runs through Autumn Hall, Eastwood Road out to Wrightsville Beach, and several other existing facilities, including the River to Sea Bikeway, MP Park, the Greenville Loop Trail, which is currently under construction right now, the Central College Trail, which was completed a couple years ago as part of our transportation bond, and several other cross-city trail connections. These are all tied to our long-term recognized connectivity need, which includes the Walk Wilmington Plan of 2009, which had sidewalks along Hooker Road, Wrightsville Avenue, Greenville Ave, and Hinton Ave, and also the Comprehensive Greenway Plan that was approved and adopted in 2013, which you heard an update on tonight as we're updating it in 2023 with the MPO. It includes bicycle facilities along Hooker Road and Wrightsville Ave. And through the Complete Streets policy that was adopted in 2009, these facilities, both pedestrian and bicycle, will be combined into one complete package. I'm just going to show you an overall regional planning map that shows the connectivity and the importance of the connectivity at Hooker Road to the regional network of trails. As I mentioned before, you can see the green line there to the west or left there is UNCW, the existing system out there that goes through the campus and ties into South College Road and ultimately our Carr Avenue multi-use path, which is currently in design and right-of-way. Also going to the north, this Hooker Road connection provides a link to the Cross City Trail, the red line, and then also the green line up through Autumn Hall, Eastwood Road out to Wrightsville Beach. To the east, it provides, along with the other projects a part of this resolution tonight, the Hinton Ave multi-use path and also the Greenville Avenue, Wrightsville Avenue intersection improvements, a link down to the Park Ave multi-use path, which is our River to Sea bikeway, and down to MP Park. There's also, I apologize, I think I did that this morning too. There's also an important link to, as I mentioned, the Greenville Loop Trail connection that's under construction right now, tying back to our Cross City Trail. There has been a question about why not just bike lanes out on Hooker Road to support the bicycle traffic. You can see from the rendering off to the right here, this is a scaled rendering of the width of that, and if we just striped out 4-foot wide bike lanes on either side, you can see the conflicts that exist between the passing vehicles and also the bikers. So in order to accommodate those, we would have to widen 4 feet on either side of that road there to accommodate the bikers. In addition, if we only did bike lanes, it would not meet our Complete Streets policy and all the pedestrian connections that I've mentioned in the previously adopted policies and plans that are out there. Real quick, a budget update. To date, you can see the breakdown of the projects. We have spent $546,000 of the city's funds and local funds, which have been spent and encumbered. We have, in addition, also used approximately $288,000 worth of grant funding from the DOT. If for some reason these projects or individual projects did not move forward, those would have to go back to the NCDOT. Grand total spent to date is $834,000 and change. I would like to just provide this slide here that gives an overall cost of the project. Hooker Road is about $2.7 million. Hinton Avenue multi-use path is about $1.3 million. Wrightsville Greenville intersection improvements and bike lanes and sidewalks is $1.5 million. The difference over to the right, including the administration costs for DOTs at admin and review, we are expecting to need about $1.2 million to finish out these projects. The breakdown includes 80% of that would be funded through the federal grant, and the required 20% local match would come out of the funds that we have existing in the project, so no other funding would be required to meet that match. This ordinance tonight is a critical decision to be able to continue to move forward with the project. We are expecting to go before the WMPO board next month to get approval or request this funding to be able to meet our federal deadline at the end of next year. Property acquisition, there has also been some questions about the right-of-way acquisitions and the impact to the residents out there. I wanted to clarify that the majority of this new trail will be within the city property. The right-of-way purchase, where we're actually purchasing property as opposed to easements, is only 2% of all the property acquisition that's going on throughout these corridors. The other are easements, which include temporary construction easements, just for the contractor to go in and feather back these slopes from the back of the new trail, tying in some of the residents' concrete or asphalt or stone driveways, and relocating some of the existing residents' encroachments that may have been put out there over the years so we can construct our facilities. The other two items are some permanent utility easements for Duke overhead relocation, and also permanent drainage easements so we can have access to some of these stormwater improvements that are going to be installed as part of the project. This is just an example map that kind of demonstrates how much of the path is within the right-of-way. The blue shading is our existing right-of-way, city property. The gray shading along Hooker Road here is all within the city right-of-way. What we are pursuing here, the yellow and also the purple, are areas for temporary construction easements, again, just to tie in the grades, and permanent drainage easements to access that infrastructure for maintenance purposes. Again, this is just an example so you can see how much of the trail really is within our city right-of-way and some of the acquisitions that we're looking to acquire from the residents.
Mike, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can you go back to that slide?
Sure.
That's the entirety of the Hooker Road plan?
That's not. That's just an example. I just wanted to take a snapshot so you can kind of get a feel.
Gotcha.
It's
Just wanted to make
pretty
sure.
typical.
I understand.
Yep. So this is just a summary of what I was just reviewing. For all three projects that are subject to this resolution, about 51,000 square feet of property acquisition is required. Only 830 square feet of that is actual right-of-way purchase, which is only 2% of the entire property acquisition. The remaining are what they're labeled here as easements. These maps here, which is a follow-up to some questions this morning, show the corridors and the green dots are properties that we have closed on. The purple dots are properties that have accepted the offers and we're working through negotiation and closing. This is along Hooker Road. I'll give you the statistics and the percentages right after these slides. This one here is, you can see Greenville Avenue near the top. There's a significant amount of acceptances and closures, and a handful of them along Hinton Avenue. The statistics for this, we talked about this morning, generally about 60% have accepted across all the projects. We looked at those numbers, and on Hooker Road, we have about a 50% acceptance. We still have a few more that we're working through negotiations and discussions. Hinton Avenue was actually only about 5 out of 13, but there are 6 that I was thinking of this morning that are very near acceptance where we're working out the final details. There was one property where we no longer need an easement. Wrightsville Avenue and Greenville Avenue, 10 out of 14 have accepted, which is a 72% rate. So in summary, of all the parcels that we're out there acquiring easements or right-of-way, we're at about 53% accepted.
Mr. Mayor? Yes, sir. Quick question. The Wrightsville, that portion of Greenville is from Hinton to the intersection at Wrightsville. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The Wrightsville-Greenville Avenue, 14 parcels?
Yes.
The part of Greenville Avenue that we're discussing here tonight is only that part of Greenville Avenue from Hinton Avenue to the intersection at Wrightsville?
Correct.
I just want to make sure. And that includes the revamping of that intersection?
Correct.
Thank you.
I think there was also a question this morning about the right-of-way that is being purchased. Of all those parcels, of the 49 parcels out there, 5 of them have right-of-way that we do need to purchase. 3 of them have accepted, and we're working through the other 2. And lastly, just a reminder of the schedule. We are getting near the completion of the property acquisition phase, which will allow us to finalize the bid package and go out to bid early this fall. The bidding completion would be complete by February of 2024, early next year, with construction being completed in October of 2024, about a 9-month construction duration, which would meet our federal deadline to spend the funds by the end of 2024. As you can see, there are a lot of approvals in here that are required, various steps by NCDOT, and we're also, we have a bidding process that we need to go through and hope for a successful bidding process. And I'd just like to open that up for any questions regarding the item that's on the agenda tonight.
Any additional questions, Mike? Okay. Thank you, very thoroughly done.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for answering our questions this morning. Appreciate
Absolutely.
that. Thank you. What are the wishes of council in respect to item R3? For motion to approve by Councilmember Anderson. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item, which is item R4, which is a resolution supporting the Wilmington Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization's application for a $500,000 Safety Action Plan grant from the United States Department of Transportation Safe Streets and Roads for All Grant Program. This time I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Cottle. Mr. Cottle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to welcome back Mr. Mike Kozlowski, our MPO Executive Director. It's good to have you back on the site.
He had ankle surgery, but you're walking real good.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It's been a little bit of a road to recovery, but I'm getting there. So the bipartisan infrastructure bill established a Safe Streets and Roads for All discretionary program. The program supports the development of comprehensive safety action plans and implementation grants. The action plan must be developed before the pursuit of the implementation grants. We've estimated the cost of the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan at $500,000 for the entire MPO planning area boundary. The grant requires a 20% local match. NCDOT has committed $50,000 or 10% of that local match, and the remaining 10% is included in the MPOs and cities' adopted budgets for the MPO to apply for this grant. Applications are due July 10th, and we are requesting letters and resolutions of support from our members. If passed, this resolution would accompany our application. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. Are there any questions for Mike? Good work.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion approved by Councilmember Anderson, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item, which is item R5, which is a resolution authorizing city manager to enter into a 3-year agreement with Central Square Technologies, LLC for the maintenance and support of the electronic record management system for the Wilmington Police Department. At this time, I'd like to recognize the city manager, Mr. Cottle. Mr. Cottle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Captain Tom Tillman of the WPD will overview this item for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. What you're authorizing here is 3 years continuation of service of our RMS system, records management system. Probably the lifeblood of our police department. You know, when I first got hired, we handwrote reports. We did everything by hand. Chief Cease brought RMS here in 1998. This is a continuation of that same system, which has been bought out. It's $633,000, but that's over 3 years. This takes us through fiscal year 2026. Just to give you all an idea, when officers are out in the field and they're on their computers and they're taking a report from one of our citizens, they're using this system. When citizens get copies of their reports off the internet, P2C, that's using this system. When officers respond to a crash scene to investigate a crash, they're using this system. When our detectives are investigating cases from property crimes to homicides, they're using this system. So it is the lifeblood of the police department. There's no way we could do what we do without this system.
Very good. Are there any questions? Officer Tillman? Okay, thank you, sir. What are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item, which is item R6, which is a resolution authorizing a lease amendment for a portion of the fourth floor of 115 North 3rd Street. I'd like to recognize City Manager, Mr. Cottle. Mr. Cottle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy City Manager Chad McEwen will overview this item for us.
Thank you, Tony, or Mr. Cottle. Good evening, Mayor Saffo, Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, Mayor City Council. This is a general housekeeping item related to the recently executed lease for 6,000 square feet of the fourth floor of 115 North 3rd Street. The lease has been executed with the Community Foundation for a one-year lease. This is a housekeeping item to add an optional, two optional 12-month lease options for the tenant.
Okay. Are there any questions for Chad?
The North Carolina, the New Hanover County Community Foundation Endowment, they were in need of office space and approached us about leasing space on the fourth floor.
Okay, very good. Okay. What are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item R7, which is a resolution authorizing a contract for rollout refuse and recycling containers with Schaefer Systems International Incorporated of Charlotte, North Carolina, and this was continued from our June 6, 2023 meeting. It was funded in the Recycling and Trash Services operating budget. This time I'd like to recognize City Manager, Mr. Cottle. Mr. Cottle.
Mr. Mayor, my agenda says Mr. Dave Mays, our Public Services Director, will oversee this item, but it looks like Rick's going to do it for us. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you. He does.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Before you is a resolution authorizing a contract with Schaefer Systems International for the annual purchase of city trash and recycling carts. The contract pricing is through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association Purchasing Cooperative, and the unit cost will remain unchanged from the current fiscal 23 pricing. City staff has been very satisfied with the quality of the Schaefer's equipment, and pleased that Schaefer uses up to 25% recycled plastics in the carts. Schaefer also provides collection of our old unusable carts and issues a credit based on the market plastics pricing at the time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
What are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We have a motion approved by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. And that brings us to our final item, which is reports, item RPT1, Council's Appointments Committee for Boards and Commission. This time I'd like to recognize Councilmember Charlie Rivenbark, who is the chairman of the Council's Appointment Committee. Mr. Rivenbark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On June 5th, the Appointments Committee met along with Melissa Huffman, our city clerk, Ms. Penelope Sidbury. The other members of that board are Councilmember Neil Anderson and Luke Waddell. The first item is the Loan Review Board, and it was our recommendation to council to reappoint Teddy Hardeen as a residential lender with a term to expire 6/15/2025. The next item was the Downtown Parking Advisory Committee, and we chose to appoint, or we recommend appointment of Michael McGinty as a resident of Old Wilmington, with a term to expire 8/27/2025. The third item was the Tree Commission, and our recommendation is to reappoint Ms. Catherine Cardamone with a term to expire 6/18/26. Appoint Rainey Wallace to fill the vacancy created by Mr. Edwin West with a term to expire 6/18/2025. and appoint Joanne Daly to fill a vacancy created by Mr. Bill Walsh with a term to expire 6/18/2026. Number 4, our recommendation for the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority was to appoint Ms. Lindsay Hess with a term to expire 7/1/2026, and reappoint this appointment is a joint appointment between the city and the county, and I understand that the county has already made West Quarter their appointment recommendation, or they've already chose him, and I would recommend, or we recommend to the council, to reappoint West Quarter as well with a term to expire 6/30/2026.
If I could interrupt, I'd like to pull item number 4 from your recommendation so that we can deal with that separately, please, about the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority appointment.
So we're going to make we're going to approve, or we're going to make a motion to approve everything except for number 4, and then come back and discuss it. Okay?
Yes.
All right.
That's my understanding.
Make that motion?
I'm just asking that it be pulled right in this moment, and so you could make your motion to approve the other 3.
Let's just wait and approve them all at the same time.
All right? I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to address number 4, the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority. Dr. Jessica Cannon has served on that authority and is eligible for reappointment. She has served admirably and has a good attendance record. She is well respected by her peers, and she has actually been elected by other members of the board to serve on that executive committee, and is currently the secretary, and recently, I believe, filled a term as secretary on the executive board, and was recently reelected to serve again on the executive committee. You've received a couple of emails today in support of Dr. Cannon, and I think it's very unusual that in fact, I think it's probably the first time in the history, a fairly recent history, of the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority that we have not reappointed someone who's well qualified and has a good attendance record. So I will make a motion that we reappoint Dr. Jessica Cannon to continue to serve a full term on the Cape Fear Public Utility Board.
Are you making that in form of a motion?
I just said in making a motion, yes.
Okay.
And it has a proper second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem and second by Mr. Barnett. Discussion, Mr. Waddell.
Yeah, first I'd like to take a moment to correct the record from a comment that was made by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes at this morning's agenda briefing. She mentioned that we typically include all the applications for each position in our appointments packet to the entire council, and seemingly by that insinuated this particular packet had been altered to only include those that we were presenting for appointment this time only. I read each packet before every meeting, so immediately I knew this comment was patently false, but I did spend some time today looking through each single council meeting where an appointments packet was presented, and confirmed, in fact, that each time we do only include the applications of those that we were being presented for each particular appointment. So I thought it was important to, address that and for the record.
Well, I appreciate that. If I might interrupt, I guess because I chaired appointments for about a decade, I was seeing all of the applications, and I assumed that they were going to everyone. I apologize.
I'll interrupt you. I've been on that appointments committee longer than you have. I go back to the 90s, and they have never been presented to the entire council. Just like I told Mr. Blanks, all of the applications are public record. Anybody wants to look at them, come to our meeting or get with Ms. Sidbury and she'll show them to you. But what you said this morning was not right.
All right,
I've already
apologized for that, and I will look forward. I think it would be a good, transparent process to have all of the applications so people can see who has applied. Perhaps we'll do that moving forward.
Appointments committee, the way you're envisioning it now, and I have sat with you and Kevin all those years, and this never came up. I have always gone along with your and Kevin's recommendations, even when I didn't want to. and we've picked some dillies. And I'm not saying that Mrs. Cannon is. Well, I appreciate her service. All of us out there at Cape Fear, look at me, Margaret. All of us out at Cape Fear Public Utility Authority are on committees. She's not the only one that's on a committee. We're all on committees.
Mr. Waddell, you can please continue with.
Moving on, I certainly do want to express our gratitude to Dr. Cannon for her years of service on the CFPUA board. I believe our job, other than filling vacancies on the appointments committee, is to try and strengthen each board that we make appointments to. And so I was pleased to put Ms. Lindsay Hess up as a candidate. I believe she will greatly enhance the board for a number of reasons. Ms. Hess has a finance background, which is particularly essential on the CFPUA board. We're about to lose our long-serving treasurer, and I don't believe anyone else on that board has a finance background. Additionally, Ms. Hess brings extensive knowledge and experience in real property development, which is going to prove invaluable as the board tackles some major decisions related to CFPUA's expansion, primarily in the northern part of New Hanover County, and serving and growing our customer base. Also majorly important for reducing rates to our customer base as a whole. Her expertise in the interplay between horizontal development and infrastructure is undoubtedly going to bolster the board's capabilities. More than that, and I think this bears some weight, is that 2 members of the Appointments Committee, myself and Councilman Rivenbark, currently serve on the CFPUA board. Councilman Rivenbark has been involved with the CFPUA since its inception. We eagerly anticipate, it was not taken lightly, the reason that we put Ms. Hess forward. We do certainly express our gratitude to Dr. Cannon, but we feel this is the best way for CFPUA to grow and be a successful organization.
Mr. Anderson?
I guess it's the first time I recall this kind of thing coming up since I've been on council. And I'd first say we have, having just been on appointments for, I guess it's, I don't know, 2 years, almost a year and a half, not even that, but a year and a half. There've been many cases where we don't reappoint people. There've even been times where we've basically taken people off boards in the middle of their term. I think Ms. Haynes pointed out a lot of those are for attendance, some for other reasons. But I served on CFPUA for 2 years, and I frankly had to get off of it because it's like being on another city council. I mean, it's a big job, and it's time consuming. And while attendance is important, it's also important we try to get on that committee, for example, the engineers, I don't know Ms. Hess's background like Luke just said, but I recall the discussion, and the discussion was her background was strong and well suited for this authority. So, like the gentleman that came and spoke earlier, we're trying to find people that have backgrounds that can really make a committee, authority, any of our appointments strong, and not just put people on there. There are times when we do just have to put people on there because we can't find anyone. But when we can find somebody that's just a great fit, they tend to stand out, and that was the case here. There's at least that's I do, and I do defer to the other 2 gentlemen on this one some too, because they're sitting on that board now. I'm not in those meetings and don't typically watch them, but I guess that's what I had to add. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Spears.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too will revert back to what the gentleman, Mr. Blank, said previously about some transparency, and I've had the opportunity to speak with Dr. Cannon last night, and Dr. Cannon feels like she's being targeted and being removed from the CFPUA board. And I do recall earlier in this year where I forgot what the issue was, where Dr. Cannon upset some people, and we got a plethora of emails about people being upset with her and her being removed. And I think she has done some great things for the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority Board. And she was trying to do some innovative things. And if we talk about the qualifications of doing said job, and you have a person who's in place doing the job and someone new who comes along, and then the water gets a little murky about who can do what better. But we all know, being involved in things of this nature, you kind of have to be a savant to just hit the ground running, and she already has the experience. So I just wanted to chime in with that. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I think if we're going to compare qualifications, I think Dr. Jessica Cannon's background in public health is certainly a strong qualification there. As she's also worked on establishing a sustainability committee. She's trying to work with the county to get funding, stopgap funding, to make sure that people who cannot afford their water are able to pay their bill, or their bill their payment is somewhat subsidized. That, of course, would be a public health crisis if we have a number of people in the community that cannot afford water. We dealt with that once before, and we made an effort to try to help in that effort. So I have a motion and a proper second. I call the question.
I'd like to ask a question, if I could, please. And I do have a lot of respect for both Luke and Charlie, y'all both sit on that board, and I know that one of the reasons that y'all like to put Mrs. Hess on there is because of her financial background. Is there, and usually when a person that has been sitting on the board wants to be reappointed to that board, unless in some really mitigating circumstances to take them off that board, there's particular reasons why we would. Is there a particular reason other than the fact that y'all would like to replace her with Ms. Hess because of the financial background that she has? And that's one question. And then the other question would be is, I know that you had made comment that I guess one of the board members that is going to be rolling off of that board in the next, I guess, year or so, could possibly be a city appointment that could be replaced with Ms. Hess. Is there an issue with that if we reappointed Mrs. Cannon and put Mrs. Hess in place of, I guess, the other person that will be rolling off of that board?
Well, I'll tell you what, if y'all want to start doing the appointments committee, that's fine. Because if you can't trust us to go down there and make those well, let me finish, Mayor.
I'm saying anything to you.
Some people come on that board, they're worker bees, and they come on there without an agenda. Not in this case.
She's coming with an agenda.
I'm not through, Margaret. Luke, if you have anything to add, I'm just going to say this is something that's going to be for the betterment of the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority. So I've had conversations galore with people leading up to this. So that's what I based my recommendation on, along with my other two members.
Well, I will say that the county members that serve on there, I believe it's Mr. Barfield and Mr. Zappel, are both supportive of Dr. Cannon being reappointed and don't understand what the motivation is to replace her. So that's all I can go on. She's highly qualified, has served well, is respected by her colleagues, at least most of them. And you received an email, I hope, today from Larry Sneeden, who's quite well respected and is interested in environmental and public health issues. He is rolling off, and he sent a long email today endorsing Dr. Cannon being reappointed to a full term.
Mr. Anderson?
I don't know that I can answer that question for you, Mayor. I'd have to leave it to those two gentlemen, but I would say I was on it, I guess, from 11 to 13, and we were trying to come up with a way, trying to come up with a way to help people that can't afford to pay their bill then. Unfortunately, the bylaws are set up such that makes it very difficult. So that's not a new initiative by any means. For me, it was just you have a job and you have two resumes and you look at which one is best in your mind. That's what I was doing in this place. It was certainly nothing singling her out by any means. I don't look at appointments as suggested by a gentleman earlier that they were favors of some kind. I don't look at them as a favor or somebody should just get to serve, they should keep serving. If we have a tremendous candidate, I guess maybe I need to change my way of thinking. That's just the way I look at it. I don't look at it as someone's spot. They weren't elected to that spot, they were appointed to the spot. So that's the perspective I have on it. I'm certainly not trying to single out Dr. Cannon.
Mr. Reinbart.
The county certainly had an opportunity to appoint Mrs. Cannon to the CFPUA board yesterday morning and did not.
Mr. Waddell.
Yeah, I'd also mention to the gentleman that came up and spoke earlier today that both the women we're discussing here today, both Dr. Cannon and Ms. Hess, both listed me personally as a reference. So one asked, one didn't, but which I think is important. But ultimately, as I believe I've said before, it's about strengthening the board and making that board focus on its primary objective, which is to provide reliable water and sewer service to all of its growing customer base in a efficacious and reliable and as affordable as possible. And I think we do that. I think our proposed appointment strengthens the board. To your point, Mr. Mayor, about the existing treasurer rolling off, I think there is some importance to having some succession planning there where we have somebody on that board who can learn from the existing treasurer with regards to finance. There is no one else, to my knowledge, with a finance background. So I think that year working alongside that treasurer would be important.
Spears.
So, Councilman Waddell, if I heard you correctly, you said both Dr. Cannon and Ms. Hess asked you for a recommendation?
No, both listed me as a reference.
Both listed, that's what I meant to say. Both listed you as references.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I mean, that shines a little bit of light. Seems like a little game is going on here, you know? Thank you, Mr. Blanks. I'm going to be transparent.
Ms. Haynes?
I referred earlier to the letter from Mr. Sneeden, who I believe everyone has a great deal of respect for, who is cycling off. I guess he's had 2 full terms. And so he wrote a long letter, which came at, I don't know what time, this morning, I guess. And I won't read the whole thing, but to get part of it in the record, he said he has heard, paraphrasing, that there is some angst about her reappointment. And he says, I can say, this is a quote, I can say without hesitation that she represents a progressive voice on the board, but just as definitively that she doesn't bring politics into the discussions. She represents progressive policies, but is also thoughtful of everyone's concerns, and it is very rare that she is not part of the consensus on an issue. Frankly, I greatly appreciate her presence for the insights and passion and concern she has for the less fortunate in our city, as well as for our employees. And he goes on to talk about one of the assets of the board is diversity and so forth and so on. So he says, yeah, differing viewpoints, yes. Politics, no. And he goes on to say that's how they plan well, is that it's a diverse and interesting board with different backgrounds. So again, there is a motion on the floor and it's properly seconded.
Any other discussion? Ms. Spears?
I got one more question. So, Mr. Mayor, you suggested that we put them both on, right?
Me?
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned that.
No.
I
I guess my comment was that when somebody wants to be reappointed to one of our boards, unless there's some mitigating circumstances to take them off, like a lack of attendance or whatever the case may be, and I have to look at Luke and Charlie, because they both sit on that board. And I think they're both saying that they want somebody with a stronger financial background. Mrs. Cannon, I don't believe, has missed any meetings. Her attendance has been pretty impeccable, and she brings, I guess, some diversity to some of the comments and some of the things that are being made. But I was asking Mr. Waddell that we do have one appointment that is going to be rolling off, I think, within 12 months. It does have the financial backgrounds and whereon that's a big concern for the two members that sit on that committee. So that's what, yeah, huh?
I would endorse that. I think that's a good idea. You keep Dr. Cannon on now, and then when this next person rolls off, the next available appointment for the city, you put on this other young woman.
I was kind of thinking in the reverse, as if you could get them on both now, get them both on now, which clearly we can't do. But yeah, my concise decision in the beginning has slightly changed. But
Mr. Anderson?
We push people to apply all the time, or ask people to love people, and then if I'm her, and I've just gone through this, do I want to? I mean, I have a feeling she won't be around to be appointed again. I mean, when people think they're being appointed, they're excited, and then they get shot down by the council. It's we'll see. I hope she keeps it in there if you're going to vote this down, but that's just crazy.
I get shot down by the council all the time.
Let's take the vote.
We do need to go back and separate it out. Margaret was right. It needs to be separated out because whichever way we vote, it affects the other appointment recommendations.
Well, yes, my motion is only for number 4 for the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority. Madam Attorney?
I think previously, Mr. Rivenbark had wanted all of them to be voted on at the same time.
Well, okay.
And
Yes,
so
you
the
did.
motion would be to accept the rest of the slate with the exception, to accept the whole slate with the exception of Ms. Cannon be reappointed instead of Ms. Hess. Is that correct, that that's your motion?
Well,
I think we need to vote on that particular thing, on number 4, just like we do on consent agenda. We
That's
take
fine.
one item off, we vote on the rest of the list, and then we go back and we address that one item.
That's fine as well. However you want to proceed, Mr. Mayor.
Madam Clerk?
Well, the attorney has spoken, but you have a motion on the floor. So unless you have a substitute motion, I think you need to act on that because Mr. Rivenbark wants to take the other ones as a group.
Well, we could
just
work through it.
speaking up to say that we probably do need to separate it.
Yes, sir. Yes,
We
sir.
could vote on it
Because-
first and then the rest of them.
Because the recommendations that were presented by Councilmember Rivenbark was as what was in your packet. And what Ms. Mayor Pro Tem is trying to do is pull that number 4 out.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying you'll have to decide which way you want to go. But the recommendations from the committee was to accept the slate as presented, but Mayor Pro Tem does not want to go with number 4.
So what motion is on the floor right now?
The motion on the floor now is to pull number 4 off of the recommendations and to vote on it separately and to reappoint Dr. Cannon for a full term. And that's a proper motion, and we have a proper second. So we need to vote on that about reappointing Dr. Cannon, yes or no, up or down?
Margaret, can we do it the way you suggested at the beginning? Can we just do like you wanted to do with like we do with the agenda, the consent agenda?
Yes, sir, that's what she
Can we just do it like that? Let's vote on it.
I'm saying,
Pull-
isn't it?
Well, you're saying, I just want to pull, can we vote to motion to pull 4 out of it and vote on the slate? The rest of the
Yes.
slate. Okay.
So this motion on the floor right now is simply to pull number 4 off.
Well, it wasn't, but it was not, that was not the motion, but we can make that the motion to just simply pull it so that then they can have their whole slate. Is that what you're saying needs to happen?
Let's do this. Let's vote on the first slate excluding number 4 and take a vote on that, and then we'll go back to that, okay? How about that?
All right, so we're going to withdraw this.
Yes, please. Okay? This motion is to approve the committee, the Appointments Committee's recommendation excluding number 4. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Anderson, second by Councilmember Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right? That passes unanimously. Now, to your point, Mrs. Haynes.
Yes, okay. So now, I'll go back to address item number 4, which is the appointment to the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority. And my motion is to reappoint Dr. Jessica Cannon for a full term. Oh, I need to, do I?
Yes, you need to make the motion.
Well, that's not up there, so Clerk, do you want me to punch that? or-
No, ma'am, I just was going to get clarity. You're only dealing with Dr. Cannon, but do you also want to agree to include in that motion to reappoint the joint appointee who is also a part of Cape Fear?
Oh, sure. The fella, the man. West Quarter, yes, that would be fine. That's an amendment to the motion, and you accept a friendly amendment. Okay, so is that clear? The motion on the floor is to address the appointments for only the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority, and the motion is to reappoint Dr. Cannon and to reappoint West Quarter.
Are our machines down here? Because I'm not seeing anything on.
Separate motion, it doesn't go up there.
You have to do verbal.
We have a motion by Mrs. Haynes, second by Councilmember Barnett, to reappoint Jessica Cannon to a full term.
And West Quarter.
And West Quarter, who is the joint appointee. Okay.
Wait just a minute.
All in favor?
That's not right. We need to separate those two.
Yeah, Madam Attorney, can we, I think we have consensus that we want to approve the joint appointee, West Quarter. Can we just separate those two?
That wasn't the motion, so you would have to ask.
All right, I will amend the motion once again. As I'll go back to my initial thought, which is my motion is to reappoint Dr. Jessica Cannon for a full term on the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority. Can we just leave it at that? And you are seconding that?
Well,
Yes.
I think you would have to name the slot. Other than that, I think you'd be, there's two slots, so you'd have to name which slot they're filling.
Well, we would be reappointing her for the slot she's in.
The city appointee.
Oh, the city appointee. Okay. I mean, we don't appoint people for somebody else.
Quarter is a joint appointment. Okay.
Quarter is the joint appointment, not Dr. Cannon.
Is there a second?
Okay, we have a motion.
Wait, there was a second.
Mr. Barnett. Okay. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-3.
Thanks a lot, Bill.
Thank you.
You did shit.
Appreciate it.
Welcome.
So now we got to go to West Quarter.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We make a motion to approve West Quarter. We have a motion by Councilmember Waddell, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. That concludes this agenda. Are there any items to be brought forward by our city attorney?
No, sir, we did, you do have a closed session motion.
Okay. Mr. Carter? Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Mr. Waddell? Mr. Barnett?
The Williston class of 69 and 71 will have a graduation on July the 1st. It's been 50 years in the making, so we want to congratulate them. And we also want to say to our community, we are celebrating Juneteenth on yesterday, which was in 1865. Some Union soldiers went to Galveston, Texas, and told the slaves there that they were free 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. And so it's the time of celebration, it's the time of diversity, it's the time of learning to really live up to the creed of our country. So I just want to wish everybody a happy Juneteenth.
Ms. Haynes? Mr. Rivenbark? Mr. Anderson?
Well, I wanted to mention, we've gotten several emails about the fires a couple counties away, and they are basically, I don't know, that somehow we need to be better leaders. And I just would say it's way outside, I would think it'd be clear to folks, that's not in our jurisdiction. We're just as affected, just as frustrated. It's just as scary to us. We wish it didn't exist too. And hopefully, you know, that's really a state level situation as I understand it. So if you want to reach out to someone, reach out to your legislators. And we need to figure out why a controlled burn would be allowed and the kind of winds that day. I've talked to people that do controlled burns, and if the wind's blowing at all, they don't allow it. So I don't have answers for you. I just can tell you that is not something we're involved with or had anything to do with it, and it's been a huge concern for me and my family and our citizens since that. I mean, it really was scary looking some days, and certainly not healthy. So that's it.
Okay. Ms. Spears?
Surprisingly, no.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion for closed session to enter a closed session pursuant to provisions of North Carolina General Statute, Section 143-318.11A and 5 and A and 6, in order for the City Council to, 1, instruct staff regarding the city's negotiating position concerning the possible acquisition of real property, and 2, consider the performance of public officers or employees appointed by the City Council. The closed session will be held in council chambers, and everyone is asked to leave the chambers at this time. At the end of the closed session, council will reopen its public session. So we have a motion by Councilmember Anderson, second by Councilmember Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. We'll be going into closed session.